we find a bad X13 blower motor, we'll actually pull the whole housing and take it with us and bring it home. And I'll change it in my garage, and then we'll schedule to come back to change it once we put it all together. So this way, all we got to do is just come to the house, slide it in, a couple screws and a couple plugs, and it's done.
So you kept saying X13. Is there something different about the X13, or is just that is the example you're using?
That's the example I'm using because a standard PSC motor like we keep on the truck, we have a couple universal motors, but like with the X13s, you can't. Unless you rewire a lot of stuff, you can't put a PS. I mean, you could, but you have to do extra rewiring and everything else. But so if you just go a X13 to an X13, I mean, they have universal X13s now, which are great. I mean, so because they vary in the horsepower and stuff. So, but so if we find one that's not working, we'll just pull the whole housing, take it, and come back and change it. A couple days later once we have all the parts together and stuff.
So what do you keep on the truck as far as like if it's a PSC motor, do you have like a few selections that you keep? Do you keep like a universal type?
Yeah, so like we have a 230 volt blower motor that goes up to a half horse, 115 volt blower motor goes up to half horse, and then I keep two of the 3rd through a 6 condenser fan motors that are 1075, and then we keep one 825 condenser fan motor.
For the nice units that are quiet.
Yeah. Well, that are ones that because you can't put, if there was an 825 or 850 RPM motor there, if you throw a 1075 on it, it'll burn it up within a week.
Yeah, it doesn't do well.
I've learned that the hard way. Yeah. I've learned that the hard way. So
that gives you Servitech some extra business right there. You can come back and change it. Also, take the drain plug out. That'll do it as well.
Yes, sir.
Ask my brother. That's funny. He had to go back 6 months later. He felt stupid. Yeah, but sometimes you don't realize it's like, oh, I got to get in here. It's hot outside. You got to pull that little plug out. No, it'll be fine. Meanwhile, it's an electric aquarium later. That's what I called it because it's full of water. And then when it turns on, all I hear is like that. It's like electrodes coming out. It's like no, that's not how you do it.
We pull those plugs out before we install them, just to get this way it's no issues with it later on because it makes all the difference in the world if you don't pull them out. So
yeah, it sure does. It's just funny stories that really supply. And since it wasn't me, it's even better.
Yeah,
I'm super glad. I've done plenty of bad things. I talked about my brother. Let me say this: I miswired a blower on my own unit after years in the trade and smoked up my own house. Just because I wanted to, I was fiddling around, like stupid video idea or something like that. It wasn't even broken. I just wanted to change blowers into some other blower and test it. You shouldn't do stuff like that. Your wife will be angry. That's what happened in my particular case. My wife was angry. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Zack Talks Shop. I'm Zack, obviously, because the show is called Zack Talks Shop. I see there are half a dozen of you already here in the stands, filling the stands. Welcome all of you to the show. This week I'll be talking to Chuck Pierce. You guys know Chuck Comfort Plus. If you don't know Chuck, go look it up. Chuck is he's spacing his videos out farther now, and I can still see on the screen down there laughing. Sometimes you space them out like whole years at a time. But he's got some of the great content on YouTube for HVAC, and I call it great because it is real world content, like you're actually there doing stuff in the field. It's not theoretical, it's hands-on, and it's problem solving there in the field, which I like. I think that's a good thing. And you get to learn how to build a house, I think, on the same channel, and all sorts of stuff like that. You ever want to make your own foundation, or try to remember all the other stuff there, I put a roof on or something. There's a lot of steps to that video, I recall. And I'm referring back to Chuck building a house. I don't know how many years ago it was. I'll say like 2 or 3, but it might have been like 5. I have no idea. So we're going to talk to Chuck in just a second here. Anybody who's in the chat, feel free to chat down below. If you have any questions, you can ask those in the chat. You can also super chat. Don't let me stop you or nothing like that, or whatever else YouTube has now that I'm not aware of. And might as well bring in old Chuck here. have him in here. He is the man of the hour. Let me hit the button. See if I can do that. Wait, hold on. Got to find it. Here we are. Welcome, Chuck.
Thanks for having me, Zach.
That's no problem. I was looking back on whenever the last time you were here, and I don't know if it was the last time, but it says 2021. I didn't know that was the last time. Is that right?
That's probably right. That was when I was still in the other house, I noticed. So I think I sold that house in 2021, so that was probably it.
Time flies, man. I tell you what. So it's been 4 years now. Been one hurricane, and probably more than one hurricane. 7 refrigerants ago, probably.
Oh, yeah.
And how long ago was it you released a video on building the house?
That would have been during 2020, I think, when I built that. I built that during the pandemic because I was thinking materials was going to go crazy because they were really cheap at the beginning of 2020, and they started up from there. But I got most of mine before prices went too crazy.
So it has been actually 5 years.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That's unbelievable. So, and okay, just a little bit of background, just in case we have someone here who's not aware of your YouTube channel or anything like that. How many years have you owned your business and been in the business, that sort of thing?
I started it in 2014, so I guess that's 11 years now. Well, almost coming up on 11 years. It's over 10. And that's about the same year I started the YouTube channel, I believe, right after that. So
yeah, that's about right.
So I think I was late 2014 when I started my YouTube.
Now,
career.
Before you had the business, you were still working in the field. You were working for the school system, as I recall.
Yeah, I worked for the school system here locally in the county. And boy, that would have made some good videos thinking back. I didn't even know about YouTube then, but we had everything from, gas-fired boilers to cooling towers to ground source heat pumps to it's just everything in these old schools. A lot of the old boilers were coal-fired that had been converted to propane.
Oh, that would be an interesting video. Would they have let you videotape them?
Yeah, I was the only one working, so.
Oh yeah, well they couldn't stop you.
Nobody would have even known.
I still remember you releasing a video. I don't know if it was a school. I think it was a school. A guy who purchased a school.
Yeah, that was one of the old county schools. It was he put a furnace in the gym so he could play basketball there. Some in the winter.
I love guys like that because I ran into a few of them. Like I had a guy who had his house. He had a racetrack in front of it, and he had a fort, like a fortified area where him and his friend, and it was fortified. I mean, you'd have a time breaking into it. And he was just one of those guys. I call them like rednecks, and I think of myself in the same way. With just a whole bunch of money, what would they buy? It's stuff like that. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's my favorite kind of people.
Swimming pool business, we got a call to go up to Beckley, West Virginia one time, and they got a lot of coal up there. And I think it was like a grandson of the guy that founded the coal company up there or something, and he had more money than he needed. And he was building this huge house that he saw in Myrtle Beach. He found the architect, called him, got him to come up there and design him a house, brought the stone in from Wisconsin or somewhere. And when I was there looking for the swimming pool, he was building a 7-acre lake in the front yard so he could water ski it in front of his house.
That's incredible. That reminds me of there's this guy named DeMott. And we were doing a house on this road not too far from where I grew up. And it was a place where they had the interstate crossing through another highway, and they had dug out a lot of fill dirt, and they created lakes where they had dug out all that fill dirt. And the guy put a house on that lake, and it was just, I don't know how many acres that lake was, but it was huge. It was like 14,000 square feet. And we drove up one day because me and the guy who worked with me at the time were like, we got to see what this house looks like. I'm just curious because we don't see stuff like that. We're more likely to work in a single wide trailer than something like that and, be perfectly content. This house was huge. They had the master bedroom had like 20-foot tall ceilings, and there was a bowling alley in the house. I remember it was just one of them unreal things it's just amazing to think that people actually have enough money to
having
that
much money. Yeah. It's incredible to think how much money somebody can have and how much money I have. So big difference.
When you compare the two, yeah, there's these stark differences. And I wonder what am I doing wrong here? And I guess sometimes it just works out really good and people make the right decisions, and the other time people make my decisions. And that's where I ended up here. That's still alive. I have internet service, so I got that going for me.
Oh, we have fun, don't we?
Yeah, we have plenty of fun, and probably a few less of the burdens that some of those people do actually have that we don't know about. the burden of massive amounts of money, which does have burdens. It does happen.
I've never seen a really good outcome of a poor or moderately poor person winning a lottery. I mean, have you ever seen it where he actually works out good in the end?
No, it's so strange. It's like there's so many, like almost like there's suicides and all sorts of stuff that happens at the end of that, and it's like, it's just, I don't know what it is. I kind of know what it is. It's sort of like culture shock and just the shock of going from one world to the other one and just not knowing how to handle it, I guess.
True.
I'm glad I don't have that problem. So I can just stay right here in my world where I'm content and happy. But now that we know who you are, which I think most people probably did already, we have dozens of people watching now. Okay, they're increasing ever more so. But I want to make sure they know it's Comfort Plus is your channel, and they can see your content there. Even though I know you don't post as regularly as you did when you first began, there's still content on there.
It's been hard.
Well, there's still good stuff, and then go back and watch everything that you've ever done, which is, will take a while still. I'm assuming, and they can learn how to build a house.
Yeah.
You don't get that on many other HVAC
channels. That was a fun series to do, because I mean, we were really just winging it. We didn't know we thought we was going to do a remodel, and by the time we got the demolition done, there wasn't much left there. So
that's right. I came back on your video, and you were like doing something. It was like you were looking at a beam in the basement that was compromised, as I recall. And then the next video is like, it showed just the whole house was gone. I was like, well, what happened? That beam exploded?
Well, those houses were neat. They had been actually, they were built during World War II down in North Carolina on the banks of what become Fontana Lake down there near Bryson City.
Mm-hmm.
And what it was, they needed a dam to make hydroelectric power for Oak Ridge to build the nuclear bomb. But they told everybody it was for Alcoa, for the airplanes.
Oh,
so they went from nobody living out there to like 7,000 workers in just a matter of weeks. And they had to build them houses to live in. And that's where they built all those houses. And then when they got done, they cut them up and brought them up here because they had more dams to build and more employees that needed housing. So they relocated them. So I think when I started looking at that house, I think I got half in house number 6 and half of house number 9. Because it didn't line up right.
They flipped the number over on the way up there. Oh man, I was kind of wondering, you're going from Bryson City to where you're at, that you got to go through some pretty good mountains.
Yeah,
and I was wondering how they get all them houses up there.
That was, I mean, it's amazing what they did when they did it. I mean, of course, I don't understand how they did any of the things they did back in the day.
It is incredible.
To what we got today.
I know my dad grew up in Hickory, which is not too awful far. It's the same mountain. It's before you get to the mountains, but right across there, I-40. And they were bridge builders. And he would tell me stories about how you had to swim down to the basin of where those big footings were and those big piers were going in. And it was really dangerous stuff. I think that's one of the main differences. Nowadays, things like that are much safer. They take more precautions of machinery. But back then, you had guys like on top of the skyscrapers, and we were talking about the other day, hand riveting things together on skyscrapers, how they did it early on.
Well,
just
you see
unbelievable.
All the pictures of them standing there or sitting there on a beam, so far
perfectly capable, like they're walking around, like eating their lunch, sitting there, like kicking their legs on the side. It's unbelievable to me, but I'd be petrified because I would think so. I don't know how long it takes to get over that, but I assume it's never.
Yeah, would be for me.
yeah. I get nervous on the 2-story houses where I had to put bath fan vent caps up and I had the ladder up 2 stories. Well, at the beach, it's 3 stories really, because you have that layer at the bottom down here where you can't put anything because there's
the tide.
Yeah, there's a tide, and then there's freeboard above the tide, which is a space where you can't build above the floodplain, and so nothing starts from about 10 foot up. So after 2 more stories, it'll be 30 foot up in the air, and I would just be shaking. Like, even putting a drill like right above me would feel like I was falling backwards.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't take it. I would do it, but I would not like it.
I got a job right now. It's an old building in downtown Elizabeth and right down from my shop. And the guys owned it. He's probably owned it for 3 years. His daughter's got a flower shop on the first floor. And then you have a second floor, which there's nothing up there. He didn't even have a key to the door. And he buys buildings. That's what he does. So I went out, he got a call from there used to be a bank right next to him, a downtown branch of the bank. And he got a call from them. They were putting a new roof on, and they called and said, "Your air conditioner's on our roof." And so he said, "Can you come and see what they're talking about?" So I went into the store first and walked in, and it had a newer Goodman furnace and Goodman coil. And then the line set turned and went straight up through a drop ceiling. And I took a flashlight and I looked up through there, and I could see forever before I saw the old ceiling of the building. So it was like 18-foot tall first floor ceiling.
Wow.
They'd put down a 10-foot drop ceiling. So I go upstairs, which you had to go out onto the street and open up a glass door and go into another building to even get upstairs in his building. I get up there and the door's locked and he can't find any keys. So we get a locksmith and he gets the door open. And I go in there, and this place looks like it's from the 70s. It had some like orange shag carpeting and, paneling on all the walls. And it too had a drop ceiling. But I was it was just junk everywhere. And I was trying to figure out what it was, because there was rooms with these big glass windows just looking into the next room. And I'm wandering back through there, wondering if I'm going to fall through the floor, cobwebs. And I look on the door and it says WIDD studio, no admittance. So it was a radio station at one time.
That's crazy.
Back in, I looked and they didn't have that call letters went away in the early 80s or something. So I go back and his line set comes up through that floor, goes up about 6 foot in that room and went out through the side wall. And so I go out back, and sure enough, the bank building was much shorter than his building. So they just bunched it through the wall and set the condenser on his roof, put a disconnect, and it was one of those old tan rude units.
Oh, yeah.
Rooms,
real old.
but an old tan one, and it was still working. But the roofers must have called the guy next, the owner, and said, "Hey, there's an air conditioning unit here, but it don't look like it's yours." And they said, "Well, cut it loose," and that's what they did.
Oh, really? They just cut it off and let the refrigerant? Oh, okay.
But what he's got to do now, he's going to have to put him a unit on top of his building, which is only a 2-story building. But Zack, these ceilings, I took my drone out there this morning, and the building's over 30 foot high for 2 stories.
Wow.
And you go down a few steps to get in the back of it because the alley's higher than the front street. Mm-hmm. So the stories, they're 15, 16 feet apiece. And there's no roof access. I took the drone to see, because I could see something on Google Earth that looked like a little square that might have been a roof hatch next door.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It was just a chimney they had blocked off
somewhere
along the way. So he's got to get a roof hatch put in, because I told him, I'm not going up a ladder on a 32-foot building. No way, no how.
No, What are you going to do? You got to put a condenser up there.
Yeah, he'll have to get somebody to set it up there.
No kidding.
I was able to get him of course, that newer Goodman furnace was 410A compatible, so the coil on top of it. So I just found a 410A condenser before they was all gone and got it sitting at my shop waiting on him to figure out how he's going to get me on the roof.
Oh, man. That sounds like, because the downtown in Wilmington, which is the big town in my area where we did a lot of work, is like that too. There's so many buildings right next to each other, and the electrical can be a nightmare. You see wires going to the back, and there'll be like stuff it's like a museum of electrical wiring going back into the early 1900s. There'll be knob and tube on some of the old buildings up on the top of it. And you can see, a lot of them have caught fire. You're like, well, okay, we can figure this out. The wood's dry. Yeah. You can kind of put it together, what happened. It's just incredible. I'm wondering, could you put a condenser on like a side platform off the side of the building, or would the brick pull out because downtown?
Well, it's pretty bad looking, but the worst thing is, on this particular building, you got the front street, which Elizabethan built this concrete roofed canopy down the streets to make it more like a mall where you're not walking from store to store in the rain, So they've got that on the front, so there's not much you can do there. In the back, it's an alleyway that's barely wide enough for a car to go through now. So you'd have to have it up above the cars. And then on the sides, it's buildings on both sides of you. And this particular building was built, it was about a half a block. You can tell it's all one building, but then it was divided up and sold to probably 3 different people. 3 different pieces of it is now owned by different people. That's why he has to go outside to go upstairs, because he's actually going upstairs through the other people's building, but it's deeded access. So when I saw that little square, I thought it was up at the top of those stairs above the drop ceiling, and there was a hatch. I felt like he had access to the stairs. He probably had access to the hatch, but it wasn't a hatch.
Oh my gosh. Well, that can be kind of a nightmare. Yeah. And some of them buildings, like I said, if you would have tried to fasten something to the side, it would just fallen off or something. Some of those bricks are the hardest thing in mankind's history. It feels like some of them older bricks, and then some of them look like they're about to fall off. The
Well,
whole
it
wall's
just
going to
depends
fall
on
over.
how they've been taken care of. You can look up and see a lot of the brick. There's no mortar left in them, and of course, the only thing holding brick up is gravity.
Yeah,
Take out the mortar in between them. Eventually, it all comes down.
Yeah, we needed one of them revitalization projects,
No doubt.
along with the
That back in
concrete
the
mall.
70s.
Yeah,
We had a really cool hotel here in town. I think Truman came when he was running for president, and everything. And so they decided it was old and didn't look good. So they tore it down in the 70s, made a parking lot,
Oh man, Truman, that's been a while.
Yeah.
I believe that was the late 40s, wasn't it?
I would assume so. I'm not that.
He dropped the bomb, as I recall. So that would have been late 40s up until I guess Eisenhower. After that,
Ike would have been the next.
I like Ike. Well, I was gonna say we could talk about refrigerant next. Let's talk about a storm first, and then talk about refrigerant. That sound good to you? Yeah. Helene.
That was bad here. It was real bad. I mean, of course, it was worse right over the mountain in North Carolina, but where we got all of our damage was mostly from North Carolina. We got several creeks and rivers that come in from North Carolina into our county and the counties around us, and the Nolichucky River that come down. I think it's part of the Tow River and maybe the Cane River or something over in North Carolina. Wherever they meet, they become the Nolichucky, and it come down through Irwin, and it washed people away. I mean, there was people working in this plastic factory. It's right beside Interstate 26. It's just an industrial park, and people, it came up so quick they couldn't get out, and it washed them away. There was pictures of they had evacuated the hospital up to the roof and had to get helicopters to pick up the people and the patients to get them off the roof of that hospital. It was and it washed out both the north and south, or north and I guess that'd be east and westbound lanes of I-26, washed the ends of the bridge off. So that road was closed. And of course, I-40 got washed away down in the Pigeon River Valley. So both of our routes into North Carolina was closed.
That's what I was looking at after it happened, because I-26 goes south and then through, I guess, Asheville, and then keeps on going down to Ted Cook Country in Greenville, South Carolina.
Right.
And I was looking at that, and it shows where the roads were blocked on the map. I don't know why I'm curious about it, but I was curious about how much damage it did to the roads. And all the way up I-26, once it hit that mountainous region, everything was like little red markers on it.
Oh, yeah.
I-40 was little red markers, and of course, I already knew about I-40. I felt it in my heart because we'd already been down I-40 going to Pigeon Forge, and after a lesser storm, and it was already damaged. I mean, because it's running right next to the river, and river gets a little rough, it starts eating away at it, and all of a sudden you got lanes dropping into the river, which I guess happened again.
That's pretty much what happened here. It took down the last two sections. It goes from the abutment over to the first pier. It took both of those out on I-26. So, of course, the bridge was real wide because the river can get wide, like it did. But what they did to quickly get it going, they basically just filled in with gravel between the abutment and the first pier, out into the river, and paved 2 lanes and got them back open on 2 lanes so then they could fix one bridge. And now they've swapped them over and they're working on the second bridge, the first one that they had to put all the gravel in. They're fixing it. So it's still 2 lanes, but it's better than nothing.
It almost seems like something that happened like 150 years ago. It seemed like a
It's been
disaster.
6 months.
Actually, I was referring to like something that would happen,
Oh,
like a
would have
story
happened,
from
yeah.
like back then.
The storm.
Because it's like with all this technology and all the stuff that we have, we still can't stop that from happening.
Of course, it wasn't just the hurricane. It was the fact that it rained for 2 days prior to the hurricane and got everything completely saturated and the river's completely full.
Oh,
and
my
then
gosh.
you have a storm come in and like that. And I guess the upslope winds on that side of the mountain just really wrung it out. It was on the bad side of the storm. And it's just amazing. We went up into Elk Mills, Tennessee. Missy was with the school system, and of course schools was closed for a month because couldn't get nobody to school, and some of the schools were even damaged. But they were delivering food to the people that didn't have any access. And I went up into there's one area, they have two bridges. They have to cross the same river, the Elk River that comes out of North Carolina up in Avery County. And both of those bridges, they were concrete, nice looking bridges, had the concrete side rails and everything on them, been there for years. It took the bridge, the footing, everything completely out. And you go up there and look, and the water had been 40 foot over your head up in these ravines. And it's like, how did anybody, make it? If it had happened at night, the flooding part, it would have been bad because it was daytime and everybody could see the river coming up. And they got out. I don't think as a county we had any fatalities. They did, of course, in Unicoi County right below us. I was talking about the Nolichucky. And then, of course, there's a lot of fatalities right across the border over in your state.
Yeah, I think it was over 100 people died, and there was a ton of them missing, which is presumed dead, you would think, just got caught in the river or something like that. I looked it up because I was curious, because around here we had a hurricane named Floyd that came through 26 years ago, and it was the highest amount of rain that we've ever gotten in a 24-hour period. It's about 2 feet of rain. And the creeks around here, and just to imagine, we're on flat territory. We're about as flat as you get here. They overflowed and caused all sorts of problems, but it wasn't like they were funneled into a valley and just filling the valley and just ripping stuff, ripping bridges out. It wasn't like that. It was a lot more subdued. It was still bad. But I looked it up, and at the Mount Mitchell station, which is on the North Carolina side, it's the highest mountain in North Carolina, 24 inches of rain in that period. And there's a place called Busick, North Carolina. I'm not sure where that's at. I had 30 inches of rain.
Really?
And that's just incredible to think about that being funneled into those
rivers. It's not 30 inches, it's 30 feet when it gets halfway down the mountain.
Yeah, because there's nowhere for it to go except for, it's funneled into those little areas. And of course, all those little areas, you got major interstates and stuff running next to rivers.
Right.
On every single one of them. And of course, they were all destroyed to some degree. But afterwards, how about your town, your immediate area? How much effect was there?
Well, of course, the county was, like I say, it was bad. We got one high school that was completely flooded, and they've put the students temporarily in a high school on the other side of the county into a school on the other side of the county that had recently been closed and consolidated in an elementary school. So they had that location. So, but that happens to be the students that's coming from the most remote areas of the county on the other side. And they're having to take vans and go up and get them in Tennessee through North Carolina to bring them back into Tennessee and take them to school on the other side of the county now. So it's been a mess. But our little town right down in Elizabethton, which is on the Doe River and the Watauga River, the main thoroughfare, the Broad Street, that bridge sunk right in the middle. They had so much water coming down the Doe River there. The bridge just shifted, and they noticed it because you could see it looking across the bridge. It's kind of an arch, and now it's over and down and up again. So they've been working on it. It's not been open. They've been routing everything by my shop. It's terrible. I can't even talk. You can't hear nothing. But I was wondering what was taking so long, but they were talking about trying to put piers under the center of the bridge to, concrete piers, drill and put concrete piers to hold it up, jack it up. And they said when they got in there doing testing, those foundation was setting on up to 18 foot of river rock, just those round brown rock that we have. So can you imagine trying to dig a hole in 18 foot of river jack?
Oh my!
I can't imagine. I don't know how they're going to do it, but they keep pushing the opening date back out. They'd be better off probably.
They're trying to figure it out.
Washed away,
Yeah, they're trying to figure out how to do it at this point.
You can't tear this bridge down. It's built in 1926. You got to fix it.
Called a historical society on that one. How about your customers? How did they fare?
Of course, on this side of the county over here, you had a lot of flooded, homes and ductwork and stuff like that. Some of the larger contractors here was running ads on Facebook wanting duct installers. I did a few change outs because of the flood, but I didn't take on any where I had to do complete duct replacement just because I'm old.
Hey, I'm thumbs up on that one. That's wisdom right there. It's not that you're old; it's that you're wise.
Maybe that's what it is. I'm getting smarter instead of.
There's wisdom. Yeah. Do you want to do a duct? No, thank you.
No, thanks.
Nope. No, that's okay. That's why there's subs out there. That's why subcontractors were invented.
Yeah, I
To
mean,
be
he had
paid
a
for it.
few like where the basements would fill up within about 2 foot of the floor, but the air handler was sitting down there, so
Oh,
you
yeah.
replaced a return duct and a new air handler, and you're back in business.
That's okay. That sounds okay. But dealing with wet duct work is it's just so nasty.
Oh, it's
just-
crazy. I mean, I say I didn't do any. I did do one house. It was actually right in the city of Elizabeth, and it got mud all the way up to the floor in that old house, and the contractor, the guy that was fixing it up, had to haul out mud in 5-gallon buckets, and then he had rocks that had the foundation that kind of washed out in one area, and there was rocks, this big around. He just left them laying down there in the corner. It was just like a little cellar. But he said, I couldn't get them out. he got all the mud out in 5-gallon buckets. But
Yeah, got to have a souvenir, I guess. So is everybody pretty much in the clear now that your customers?
I mean, there's a lot of construction still going on. People, most of what's happened has been churches and groups like that have come in and, bought people new double wide trailers when they've got, the house washed away. And some of them look ridiculous now because they're 8 foot off the ground. You have to have a few flights of stairs to get up to them. But for the most part, things are getting back to normal except for travel. And, like say, except for that one school that's still closed. I think they voted to go ahead and build a dike or levee down beside of it and open it back up. They talked about it's hard to consolidate high schools in this area.
Yeah, it'll be fine. Yeah.
My daddy went to that school and I went to that school and I want my junior to go to that school.
A levee. When I hear levee, I worry, but I mean, I'm sure it'll be fine. It'll be all right.
That's a 1,000-year flood. We won't have to worry about that again, will we?
Just ask our people in New Orleans. The levees work great all the time. No problem. Which is ironic because this was the deadliest mainland storm since Katrina in New Orleans. Helene was.
I read when I was up in Roanoke, every time it comes a storm, they would talk about some storm that came in 1969. It's called Camille or something. And
Camille, absolutely. Yep.
Like
strong
up in
hurricane.
the Wintergreen ski resort areas up near Charlottesville or something. They was talking about, 69 people were killed. And it was like, wow, that many people this far inland? And then you see something like this and you're going, oh, I see.
Yeah, absolutely.
See what happened.
The Camille is one of the ones they always talk about. Camille and Hurricane Hazel, 1954, I think. Just living on the coast, you learn their names and stuff. Because every restaurant you go to at the beach, like old seafood restaurant, they'll have pictures like this was 1954 when our restaurant was flattened the first time. And it's just interesting to see the stuff because it's just unbelievable, especially at the beach. You build it up, God knocks it back down again. Build it up, knocks it back down again. And they're millions and millions of dollars. But I mean, that's what the people want to do. That's what they're going to do. Actually, I remember right after the storm, I was thinking about how would someone go? Because I remember we had met in Boone one time.
Mm-hmm.
So, if that were to happen again right now, how would that work? And I set the route to it from just like city center where you're at over to city center of Boone. And you would be going all the way up to Interstate 81, going up towards Roanoke, coming back down again. It was like a 7-hour trip.
That was what they're showing you to do. Go up 81 in Virginia, up near Withfield, get on 77 south, come down to Statesville, North Carolina,
Yeah.
You get on 421 or something. So.
Oh, man, that's a long trip. Yeah.
No
good old 421. That's right. It was probably out, too. I think it was
washed
out, too.
It was closed right up near the state line as well. They got it back open now. And then, like I say, they're getting close on 321. I still think they're saying it's going to be a while, but it's got to where some of the locals have started driving on the gravel that's there when the construction workers aren't working in the evenings, they can use it.
Yeah, the unauthorized use.
Yeah,
I don't blame them. But after a while, you just you get tired of stuff like.
Well, these guys, I mean, they're like I say, we had that one small area up there that the road crossed the river twice, and there was no way out. Those people were stuck in there because both their bridges were gone. There was no other roads. The mayor here in the county got the Tennessee National Guard to bring Blackhawks in, and they were going up and taking them supplies and bringing the people out that had somewhere to go. And that's all they had for a while. But along one of those, where those bridges were on either side of the river, there was a little side road that went down in the holler beside the river. And those locals, they found a spot where the roads got down real close to the river level, brought in 2 or 3 tractor trailer flatbeds and lashed them together out in the river and made them a bridge.
Oh man,
And,
I like that.
It wasn't pretty, but it got people in and out and got them supplies. It was
man.
real easy to go with a 4-wheeler, but you could take cars and trucks across it too if you were brave.
Now, have you ever gone across it?
I walked across it when I took the food up there that time. But
yeah, I wouldn't blame you. Just walk across it'd be good. That sounds, because whenever we go to the mountains, I remember every road you have, there's always these little offshoot roads, and they're like the steepest grade and the worst roads ever, and they're narrow. And if there's another car coming, you got to make a decision on who's going where. It's just that's what I picture there. One of them little
that's
roads
where I
going
was
down.
looking up. I was telling you earlier, there was like 40 foot of water come through that ravine down through there where them bridges were washed away. And you could see the stuff hanging in the trees. And I was talking to one of the locals there, and he said, well, over there where you see that truck up against that tree, there was a house sitting right there, and it's gone. No sign of it. It just sand. It just took the foundation. Everything was gone down the river and into the lake.
That's incredible. I mean, if people haven't seen this, there's videos. The ones I'm most familiar with are the ones that happened in Asheville, because Asheville took just a beating. It's just the whole downtown, and you'd see houses floating down the river. There's a whole lot of videos of that just to kind of picture, what happened and how fast it happened. I know there's guys that would say this was at 8 a.m., this was at 11 a.m., and you see the river just building so fast you wouldn't be able to escape even if you wanted to. Right. Which is scary. That's a very scary thing to have to go
through. And then the mudslides that happened on these steep slopes, where it just, took trees, mud, dirt, everything down the mountain, and just kept snowballing as it came down. That was bad too.
Yeah, it's something that already happens on the mountains periodically. You have like rocks falling and stuff like that. I know I see the signs, rocks fall zone, be vigilant. It's like, okay. All right, well, that giant rock comes down, hits the car, there's nothing much I can do about it but die, because you see some of the rocks that come off the mountain. Now, do you have a bunch of business coming in because of this? I know you changed out some stuff, you said. It seemed like you told me you're doing a new construction.
I didn't try to do any of the, flood-related stuff because it was, it was just big jobs that would be complete, guts and reduct, and that's just
nightmare.
That's just not that's a young man's job.
Yeah,
but
nightmare job.
I had a few customers again that just had some stuff flooded where I'd replace the equipment and stuff in the little cellars and stuff, but that was about it for me.
Did you say you were doing new construction? Was it new construction? Because I thought you were building another house.
I don't like to do a lot of it, but actually the guy who was the superintendent of the county schools, he retired sometime after I did, and he bought some land and started building some cabins and selling them. And I've done all of those for him, but it's usually like a 2-bedroom crawl space situation. So I can go up and hang the air handler one day and cut a hole for the return and figure out where everything's going to be, and then I can go back to my shop and build everything, and take it out and put it in 5 feet at a time. So it's not a bad thing. It's not like trying to do duct work in an existing house where I was under the house on that one of them early videos trying to dig a hole to get the duct through and jack the house up.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I tell him. I said, if you don't have a crawl space that's at least 40 inches high, don't call me.
My, how times have changed. Yeah. I'm not jacking up the house. I'm not even going underneath the house. You got 3 foot clearance minimum.
Well, that's the thing about new construction too. If you can kind of tell them, you got to have a crawl space. If you're going to put you in there, get you at least 5 blocks. And then when you get there, it's clean because they just done it, 4 weeks before or something. So not be a few 2x4s or something laying under there, but it's just all, virgin earth, and you don't feel like you're going to crawl in there and get into a rattlesnake's nest or nothing.
Yeah. Or a glass bottle that's been busted. Or something like that.
Cannon jars. We have a lot of that around here.
That's exactly right. That's what I think about old downtown houses. You never know what you can find. Rusty metal shards of something, farm implements. Yeah, you never know what you're going to find. All right, this seems like a good segue time. So we're going to disappear off the screen for a second, and I'll do my little sponsor thing, and then we'll pop back and talk about some refrigerant stuff.
Great.
How's that sound?
Sounds good to me.
I'll whisk you away for just a moment, and we'll be right back in just a second. These are the sponsors for the show. Support them if you can. But at least listen to the ads. We'll be right back after that. Get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades, supplyhouse.com. Supply House is a reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk to a real person every time. Use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. The Yellow Jacket Titan Max digital manifold provides the easiest path to system measurements. This 4-valve manifold provides fast and accurate measurements for refrigeration and AC systems. The high-resolution backlit touchscreen display erases the need for multifunction buttons and provides clear graphical and digital measurements. It also features internal data logging. Connect via Bluetooth to the WideJack View app or MeasureQuick app for further analysis. Visit yellowjacket.com for more information. All right, let's see. Oh no, where am I? Right here I am back. All right, guys. Thank you. That's our sponsors. Support those guys. We appreciate it. I'm going to welcome Chuck back here. I like to come back first so don't take Chuck off guard after the commercial break. And all right, he is back. I think. Are you muted?
I was trying to see. I couldn't see the chat on my screen here. I was looking on the phone to see, but I'm not sure what I'm supposed to click. It says chat with everyone in the studio, but that's not it. That would be me and you.
You can chat with me. The other chat's on YouTube here. We have Shannon Knight says young man's job, thumbs up. Blake Carter says 2 OGs. That sounds about right. When YouTube was young. East Coast says love your flag, Chuck.
Great.
A guy named Fred says hello, boys and girls, and says thank you for all your content and calls us legends. Wow, that makes you feel good, doesn't it?
Oh yeah,
man. Oh man, did you order a pizza for the show? I almost forgot that we associated you with pizza so much. I hadn't thought about that in a long time.
Well, I did have a pizza for lunch.
Hey, there you go. Still the same. You were having pizzas every day or something. What was it? It was like every single day was like pizza or something. Is that what it was?
Yeah, sometimes I'll switch it up and have a calzone maybe for lunch and then a pizza for dinner, but you know.
Which is an inside-out pizza or something. I think that's what a calzone is. A stromboli. Oh my gosh, those are good.
I'm all about the cheese anyway. I don't care much about the sauce. So.
Oh man, I'm hungry now. Well, we're going to talk about some refrigerant stuff. Guys in the chat, you can ask questions if you want to, or just you continue to call us legends. So that really helps the ego here. Really appreciate that. But we're going to talk about R454B, which has become sort of a problem here. And I was trying to look a little bit more about the shortage of it, and it's sort of ambiguous what the true reason for the shortage is. Now, I had this thing that I'll read to you. Here's what the AI told me on Google whenever I looked it up. It said a nationwide shortage of R454B refrigerant, a key environmentally friendly alternative to older refrigerants, is impacting HVAC contractors, leading to delays in installations, blah, blah, blah. The shortage is primarily due to cylinder shortages and supply chain issues, which is a little vague. Cylinder shortage, it makes, okay, that's it. But supply chain issues, you never know what that actually means. As the HVAC industry transitions to R454B as part of a broader effort to reduce climate change. So this is climate change's fault again. Thanks for climate change. Those cows farting on the plains, I guess. That's the climate change. And here's one more thing I'm going to read out real quick. Here's the other reasons for the shortage. As R410A is phased out, and this is what the computer told me, this is not necessarily the actual reason, demand for R454B has surged, outpacing supply. Cylinder shortage is the second one. Supplier strain, which is Honeywell, is having major difficulty meeting demand, and tariffs, which is a new thing you can blame. But here's what I'm kind of wondering here, just this common sense person. Honeywell has known about this for a long time, that this was coming. I cannot believe that it's just they can't keep up with something that they knew was coming. So, I mean, what's your take on this stuff, Chuck?
Well, the guy that I get, the distributor I get my comfort maker from, he told me that they told him that the Honeywell or the refrigerant manufacturers went to all the equipment manufacturers that was going to be using 454B and said, how much are you going to need? And they said, I'm going to need X million pounds. And the other one said, I'm going to need XX million pounds. they added all that up, and so they made that much. And so then they made a little more to sell, retail out the front door of the supply house. And they said then the manufacturers all doubled what they wanted.
Oh.
Now, that's what he said early on. This was when it was still, $400 a jug, and they were complaining about that. And I was over there this past week, and I said, "How much is 454B?" And he said, "We don't have any. We can't get any." So said we were looking on the internet, and we saw it for $4,000 one place.
Oh man! Oh gosh!
Do you still get the Jackson Systems email stuff?
I'm sure that I do. I haven't looked at it in a while.
From them,
yeah.
And I saw someone else had it on one of the Facebook groups, and it said if you buy any pallet of refrigerant, you can buy up to 2 jugs of 454B for only $1,350 a piece.
Only? Oh, wow. Okay.
So
Gee.
I'm like, wow. But I mean,
Oh,
I don't
man.
know. If it's a jug problem, why is there 32 available? Because there's not.
I was wondering that. That's what I was
mean,
curious about. It's the same jug, isn't it?
You would think. I mean, the pressures are the same. The flammability is probably the same. The only difference is they put that new car refrigerant in it and made it a little more environmentally friendly.
Yeah, that's what I saw. The YF, I think, is it YF 1 2 3 4 or something like that?
1 2 3 4 YF.
Yeah,
and that's what's crazy about the whole thing. We were talking earlier. You look at 410A, it's mostly R32, but they put the R125 in it. It's like, what's 125? Oh, that's what you put in fire extinguishers. So they basically was making a refrigerant that could put itself out if it caught fire. And it also made it have a high global warming potential, which you never heard of in the 90s when they was talking about phasing it out because of the ozone and the chlorine.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
They didn't care. They just threw whatever in there,
That's
and
exactly
so now
right.
we're saying, okay, let's take that out and call it R32. Or he's using a better idea, we got a patent on this thing over here. Let's stick it in a jug with it, and we'll call it something new, and we'll be the only ones that can make it.
And we'll convince most people to use it.
Yeah, they did. They did a good job, apparently.
Yeah, everybody but there's R32, like just a few people, right? The Goodman and Mitsubishi use R32, I think.
I don't know if I thought Mitsubishi was going with the 454 because they kind of got a partnership with Train.
Maybe they did, actually. Maybe they did. I know I know Goodman for sure, and that group of Daikin, because R32 is their thing.
Well, and of course, the theory is they're going to make them get lower global warming potential numbers sooner rather than later. And, R32 may have to be switched out. What's it going to go to? Well, it'll go to 454 is what everybody's saying.
That's incredible. Thinking about it, and I'm going off memory here. We could look it up or something. But R22, as far as global warming potential, was actually better than 410A.
It just had chlorine in it.
Had the chlorine in it.
Moved the oil around.
had to get rid of that. Couldn't have that. So we have a higher global warming potential with 410A until R32 comes along, and it's something like 750, I think, if I recall correctly. Then 454B is somewhere like 450, 500, somewhere in there. So it's not dramatically different because there's a lot of 32 and 454B.
Right.
Along with other refrigerant.
Cutting it back a little bit, but
right.
I don't know what the answer is. I mean, it seems like we're getting ripped off. I saw on Facebook somebody had shared an email that Train was going to start putting more refrigerant in their split systems because the 15-foot line set wasn't enough for most installations. And since nobody could get a jug of refrigerant at at the supply house, they needed to buy the unit with more in it. So what they were going to do was give you an extra 10 foot, which if my memory serves right, what is that, 6 ounces in most cases for 3/8 line?
They said we always did 0.6 per foot.
Yeah. So
but they were doing like slightly less. Yeah. They're doing slightly less for theirs. So, it's slightly less. Not more, slightly less.
Crazy. But if you had 6 ounces of refrigerant, the kicker was it's going to be on serial number. Units made after May 7th are going to have that extra 6 ounces or 5 ounces or whatever in it. Mm-hmm. And we're only going to charge you an extra $50 for doing that. Add them numbers up, fellas. How much is 6 ounces into a 20-pound jug times $50? You're talking $2,600 for a jug of refrigerant.
$2,600 over $100 for 1 pound. So it's like $113, $120 a pound just for that. Now, does that make your skin crawl? I mean, you think there's a reason why it has to be that much for them, or you think that they're just padding?
I have no idea why. I mean, what's going to change for them other than the cost of the refrigerant? It's they set those things up. How much refrigerant you're going to put in this thing? They ain't leaving it up to Bob down there to figure out when to turn the valve off. He just pushes a button.
Right.
So I don't know.
Leave it in there for another. The button runs. The machine runs for about 2 extra seconds or something. I really don't know. I can't see why it would cost that much. But I don't know. Maybe they realize that they're losing out in some areas. They got to make it up.
I mean, you ever think, everybody's been talking about R22, all these, don't put R22 in something. It costs too much. This stuff we've been using for the last 2 months. Now the refrigerant's going to be the same price as R22. That's about where it is right now.
And that's crazy. That's crazy right there.
And why did it have to go to 20-pound jugs? Because it's flammable? I mean, the 410A went to 25 because it was a higher pressure. You can't, is 410A, it's not higher pressure necessarily than these other two.
They're about the same. Close. They're pretty close, yeah, because the same ingredient in all of them.
I think R32 high enough that it have to be 5 pounds less in a jug. Sounds like somebody just wanted to
make it sound like it costs the same. That's what I think it is. I think it's like when you go to the store and instead of a 20-ounce drink costing now it's $2, that they have a 16-ounce drink that costs $2. And the price stays the same, but the drink gets smaller and smaller and smaller. I think that's what's going on.
When's the last time you seen a gallon of bleach in the store?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you the answer to that.
I'm surprised they hadn't done it to milk yet, 128 ounces.
That's exactly right. They'll have some kind of reclassification of how much you get. And you'd be like, okay, well, the price is staying the same. Well, no, it's not. But it's, it's easy to kind of, I don't know, rationalize that it's the same or just feel like it's the same. I don't know. They get away with whatever they want to get away with. So we couldn't do nothing about it if we knew for sure.
We ain't got it. I mean, I've seen people on Facebook in some of them groups begging for it. Does anybody have a jug of this I can buy? We need it. And some people are actually buying units to recover the refrigerant out in order to finish their installs.
Wow.
That they're doing, every day so that they can, fix that 50-foot line set and put enough in it.
That's incredible.
It's crazy. I mean, it's crazy that they have to go to that. I mean, I'm not saying they're crazy for doing it. That's actually smart. I mean, if you got a crew sitting there waiting to go to work and you can't do it, you got to do something.
Yeah, we've been through versions of this. I'm sure you have too, where they didn't have a part, so you'd have to rob an air handler. Like at train, they didn't have like whatever it is. Because for a long time they had parts delays on stuff, and like you needed a coil and you couldn't get the coil. They didn't know when. You had to go to either buy an air handler or they'd have to rip one out and then replace it, which I know they can't do actually. So something would have to happen. You'd have to kind of salvage one out of another one. It's just kind of high stakes now with doing that sort of thing because that's costly.
Well, you've seen when you've tried to go buy a replacement coil and the air handler was cheaper than the coil, because the new air handler.
Yeah, train for sure.
I mean, I guess we're getting to the point now that you can probably buy a heat pump just to get the refrigerant out of it and make money if it's going to be, $120 a pound.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You really could. I mean, if I think back on some of them, like the most good, I'm familiar with Goodman because of my life, but there's those old Goodman 13-seer and 12-seer units that were like double row coils, and they'd come with like 12, 13, 14, 15 pounds. Yeah, they have all the refrigerant you need, depending on the cost of it. I mean, that's kind of a gold mine for R454B, I guess. That's crazy. Now, when you do service calls, Chuck, you still going out and servicing a lot of stuff, or is it installing, or what are you mainly doing?
Well, I install. I pretty much, of course, I got less years left here than I've had in it, so I ain't going to be doing this forever. But I told somebody the other day, I'm like a doctor. I'm just not taking new patients at this point.
Oh yeah.
So if you call me and you're in my phone, I'll pick it up and I'll take care of you. But if it's a number, I saw Bubba, somebody told me to call you. I can't even answer it at this time of the year with trying to take care of everybody else because it takes 20 minutes to tell people you can't do something because they want to talk about what the problem is and everything,
Right.
It's better for them to just call somebody that's got, more than one technician in the company.
Yeah, no, you're right.
I can only do so much and that's all I'm going to do. And I mean, it's sad. I mean, it'd be a good opportunity for a young man to, hire him some people and make a bunch of money, but I'm not there.
You're not there anymore? Well, I tell you what, it sort of sounds like a soft close where whenever the last customer stops calling after the years go, like another customer moves on and, they either pass away or whatever happens to them. And then when the last phone rings, that's when the business closes.
Exactly.
Is that sort of the idea?
Well, I think so. I mean, it's something I enjoy doing it. I mean, I'm not going to say I don't enjoy it, but I definitely don't want to get a bunch of new customers, and I'm not going to be. I mean, they got a 10-year parts warranty, and I may only do this for 3 or 4 more years.
Right,
So
right.
I don't really want to leave a bunch of people out there and have to tell them, no, I'm not going to come work on that equipment I put in for you. So I'm going to kind of take it easy there. How 10 years from now, I can probably go out and put a capacitor on something. Yeah, but
you won't even want
to
10 years from now. 10 years from now, you won't. You'd be like, nah, they can go get a capacitor for somebody. Unless
who am I kidding? None of this equipment's going to last 10 years nowadays.
That's right. What are we talking about? Yeah, no capacitor to change on it. I
took out a unit the other day, Zach. It was a Westinghouse.
Yeah.
High Rely. Did you ever see one of those down there?
No, I don't know. Were they pre-Nordine Westinghouse?
Yeah, this was when Westinghouse was a company before York bought them. This was a 1970s model unit.
Oh, good night.
It was still running until the compressor quit this past winter, and they went to go to air conditioning and didn't have anything. But what was unusual about this thing, and I got the condenser at our shop. I started to do a little video on it. They kept a flooded evaporator coil. They actually have a TXB that's on the liquid line, but the bulb is also on the liquid line. There's no equalizer or nothing. And all they're trying to do is get a little bit of superheat back to the compressor. And they said it was good for heat pumps. That's the reason. Some guy designed it at Westinghouse in the 60s. But
that's interesting.
Actually, the liquid line goes through a coil in the accumulator to try to put some heat into the accumulator. And then it had another little place where it went through the suction line right before it got to the compressor. It had a heat exchanger in there as well.
Oh, so it's getting superheat later on in the cycle than it normally would.
Yeah,
trying to give some superheat to it.
I didn't understand. I didn't even know that's what it was. To tell you the truth, there's no metering device on the indoor coil, so everything happens outside.
That's incredible. I'm trying to imagine that. So you have that warm liquid, and they're using it to add superheat on that flooded or saturated gas coming back. Maybe trying to get it to boil off completely.
I think it was probably a better heat pump than it was for AC, but it worked apparently. And this thing, it had 22 in it, of course, R22, and I put the recovery jug on it. And that thing ran forever, and I couldn't hardly pick the jug up. So it had a bunch in it.
Oh, yeah, I guess
the serial numbers are crazy. I can't even find anything to decode them, but the best I could tell, it was from the 70s, based on just my research. Now it had like a mechanically timed defrost.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just a really, and apparently it was a really good unit. It lasted this long.
Absolutely.
The line set had the big nuts, that where you bolted it on.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
The guy the fellow that lived there had actually installed it himself, along with some helpers from the local tech school or something to do the ductwork and stuff at the time. And the thing that should have given it away to me, they had insulated the liquid line like on a mini split. And it didn't even occur to me. I thought they just did it because.
Yeah.
But they did it because it could actually sweat.
That's so interesting. Oh, did it have service valves?
No, it didn't. It didn't have any service valves.
It reminds me of some of them units. Goodman made units like that, but they were trailer units.
Yeah, a lot of trailer units was that way. Yeah.
Man, that's interesting. I almost want to see a diagram of that sucker. See what it looked like.
I think you can probably find some. I saw there was some guys on the what is the old forum that was on the internet long before Facebook, and I think they're all on Facebook
HVAC Talk. That's got to be it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
they had some people on there that knew about it and had talked about it.
I bet they did.
Actually, around during the day.
You knew there's someone on there knew all about it. The High Rely. I'm gonna look that up. That's just a cool idea. I mean, I like stuff like that, because I don't know. There'll be like one engineer or a group of engineers that discover this thing and use it, and it turns out to be like the best thing that's ever made or something. And it's just
Well, it had that expansion valve on it. That I guess you call it an expansion valve. You might even call it a flow valve or something, but it was bolted on, with the flare nuts on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
It'd never been touched. You could tell by looking at it. It didn't have an equalizer. It just had the one, bulb that went down and strapped to the liquid line. And that's how they were trying to control the superheat. That, and with the heat exchangers in the accumulator and the liquid line coming back, or the suction line coming back to the compressor. That's where they was trying to get their superheat from.
That's very interesting. I like that.
But it was apparently a good one to last that long.
Yeah.
I told them the new one not to even consider that it lasts with a third that long.
Yeah. You've been really spoiled. Especially if you get another Westinghouse.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not going to be the same anymore. Oh,
of course,
man.
Nordine went 454 as well, didn't they?
Did they? I think almost all of them are 454.
Daikin was the only one that, of course, they was already in it. So,
mm-hmm.
But somebody said it's because Daikin had patents on this and that. But I also saw that Daikin said, "Hey, everybody can use it. We don't care here."
Yeah. I think they did. I don't know if they had patent in it originally or what, but they've always been using it. And,
but I mean, it's going to be there if they're having to use it to make the R454. I mean, R32. Yeah. It ain't like they're going to not have R32. It's a matter of, are they going to let you use it in 5 years or 6 years? Or
That's right. Because right now you'd be thinking, well, those Goodman units are looking pretty good. I imagine there's a lot of people going over to Johnstone or East Coast Metal or something to become dealers now.
Well,
because of the situation.
My Goodman had Coleman, and they had, which was with the Johnson Control York, and they had Goodman. They recently, this particular group must have bought some stores down in Alabama or something, and they wound up getting a Mana as well.
Mm-hmm.
So they're pushing a Mana pretty hard right now, especially with this 454 shortage. So I'm able to get a Mana pretty much as cheap as I can Goodman, and you get the Copeland compressor in all of them, and you get the compressor blanket and what's that little Copeland compressor monitor that they put on there.
Oh yeah, the Emerson thing.
Yeah, Emerson.
Oh yeah, with the little blinky lights on it. Yeah.
But a lot of the good ones, especially the smaller ones, like 1.5 tons and 2 tons, have been coming with those rotary compressors here lately. I don't even know who makes them.
I don't know either. I remember they came with them. Yeah, because I remember saying these are window units now.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what they look like.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember them, and I put in a lot of Manas. I don't remember having much issue with them at all, but this is a while back.
Like I say, I've put in a bunch of everything just because I pretty much go with what I can either get or what people want usually, and I don't hate any of them. I mean, I hate things about every one of them, but as far as really liking one over the other, there's not a lot of difference. I think the warranty is pretty much the same. The thing I do like about the Johnson Controls and the Coleman, of course, that's probably going to change now that Bosch is taking them over, is they offered that in-house labor warranty that I could buy, and you could get a 10-year labor warranty from Johnson Controls, for the labor. So if I go out and I had to replace a fan motor, an ECM fan motor up in the attic the other day. They had it in stock at Johnstone. I went and got it, brought it back, put it in, took it back. They filed the paperwork for me. A month later, I got a check from Johnson Controls for my labor, which was more than I would have charged the lady for it anyway.
That's pretty good. Yeah. Well, the Goodman and Amana did that too. There's like their Good Assure.
They had I remember that. They had that. I don't think did they still do that? Is that?
I don't know. I had that, but you're talking about when I signed up for that would have been about. It probably would have been 10 years ago, almost. So they might not have it anymore.
I had to get approved to do one of those because the people had bought that warranty. It was something I didn't install, and I went to check it, and it had a bad something or another, and they paid me, but I had to, do the paperwork to get signed up to be that service provider.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I'm the type that if they'll go ahead and get that, if they would buy that 10-year warranty, it saves me money, because if I have a compressor or something quit in 1.5 years, and I gave them a 1-year labor warranty, I still fix it and don't charge them nothing, because it shouldn't have went out in 1.5 years,
But yeah.
This way, if it goes out in 3 months, I get paid for it.
Yeah, it is.
And
nice.
I have had some compressors, die within a month, just you come out and one's making a racket inside and something broke. And it's like, this thing's less than 30 days old, guys. Oh, no worries. We'll give you a new unit. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I've seen a
All
couple
of us
times
would rather replace a unit than a compressor, I'm sure.
Yeah, especially on a new one, because you figure, because always with replacing a compressor, there's a risk of a snowball of problems based on what happened with that compressor. And so it's nice not to have to worry about that.
And if you hadn't done it in the last few years, during the pandemic, I guess Square D breakers and stuff kind of got hard to come by, probably just like everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this outfit that got started up called Heartland Controls, and they're based in the Heartland, but everything comes from China. So a lot of the contactors, a lot of the breakers, they're all saying Heartland Controls on them. And I've had several breakers just die, be crackling and popping. And then I've had some contactors that just get loud and rattly, and they're all Heartland Controls,
Oh, no.
So I hate that. The fact that we used to have some pretty good stuff, and just because the supply chain got screwed up, now we got stuff that's not quite as good.
Like Tractor Supply or something.
Yeah.
Those are nice farm implements from overseas. Or it's just funny. I mean, we had a place in the local town here, Wallace, that supplied people with stuff like farm equipment and farm supplies, like your fencing and stuff like that. Then there's Tractor Supply. And the guys, they had stickers made, like anti-Tractor Supply stickers in their store, because, their store was local. They got stuff locally, and then Tractor Supply, it's like Harbor Freight Farm Edition to me. I still go there, but I understand what it is. And plus, the other store closed. They went out of business. And, of course, Tractor Supply is still doing fine. And the Tractor Supply carries Evapo-Rust, so I'm going to keep on going there because no one else does. But Harbor Freight does, oddly enough. It's so strange. But, what are you going to do? These places come up, and you can't really avoid using them.
No, I mean, especially if they put the other people out of business. But,
yeah,
and it's like capacitors. You can, like Triton, you can get the made in China ones, or you can get the made in USA ones. The made in USA ones cost twice as much, but one thing I like about them, they'll fit in the carrier units, because like the 35s and 40s aren't this big around like the Chinese made ones.
Yeah.
So, capacitors don't cost that much. Go ahead and buy the USA ones if you can,
Yeah, so I try to get nice capacitors back in the day. Even when they were not necessarily USA made, I try to get the nicest ones that I had the best track record with. Oddly enough, I got jarred capacitors for a while because they didn't seem to go bad. But then,
well, they were in a lot of original equipment stuff. Seemed like.
Yeah, they were in a lot of
them
those.
Old, some of the capacitors used to actually say GE on them in Mexico or something, and they were pretty good stuff. You'll find them in new unit or old units that you take out. It's original because it's got a Goodman part number stamped on it, or an American Standard part number stamped on it, or something.
Yeah, or it fit in the hole.
Yeah, it fit in the hole.
It wasn't sitting on top of the hole with a zip tie on it. Yeah, the ream. That's exactly right. The ream, because you have to put like screws and put like washers and stuff, try to make them all fit in there.
And then you end up on some of them wrapping tape around them because the capacitor got a little bit smaller than the hole.
That's exactly right.
We didn't have to roll our lip over as much in China to make this seal up. We got a special way we do it, so our lips don't stick out as far as we can.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I could just see that, taking that capacitor up there and go whoop. Say, what's the deal? It's just like a 16th of an inch.
Yeah, it ain't much. It's just if you just hold your mouth wrong, it falls in.
So here comes the electrical tape, and that works and does the job. And then somebody judges you later, but it was fine. But I don't know. That's part of being a service tech. You kind of overcome some of that stuff because like ream. If you don't have like some of these chunky capacitors, the holes don't work. The older reams, and it's just the way it is. So either sometimes I'd put them inside that little compartment on the top if there was enough room, or underneath it or something. But then underneath it, it gets like as dirty as places you could possibly imagine in that main compartment. So the coils,
all the grass and everything goes in there.
Oh yeah. They were just a mess. But I still like those.
They were great. You get right to the compressor when you had to change something. That's wonderful.
Oh my gosh,
I love that design.
Fantastic. Of course, they got rid of that. I like the newer ones too, sort of. They had that big panel you can take off in the front, and you can get pretty good access with that wide panel to the condenser area. But some of them things, you can't reach in nothing.
I had a compressor change out in I think it was a 3.5 ton Goodman the other day. And I had to climb down in the thing. to clean it out, get the stuff out of it, and lift the compressor over into it. I mean, I couldn't get it up high enough to set it down in there if the thing was just too tall.
That's wild.
So, but I could fit in it. I just got a ladder, leaned it up against the house, climbed up, stepped down in it, unsweated the old compressor. Of course, then you got to try to hold your breath.
Yeah.
Pulled it out, put the new one in. Somebody was talking the other day about the compressors. You know, you put those loops, and sometimes they'll even put the little reducer copper that's 7/8 and jumps down to 3/4 right before it goes in. They're saying you're supposed to cut those things out. How are you going to put it back together again without, you know, making a heck of a mess? What I usually do on those is I'll put the nitrogen in on the suction port, the true suction port. Most of my stuff's heat pumps. And that way, you know, it's going through the compressor, because it'll go through the check valve, and you can, of course, confirm that. But then I unsweat the discharge first. So, you know, you got the nitrogen coming through, and you can just pop it out right quick. And then I unsweat the suction line and pull it out. And of course, you usually get a little bit of oil and a little bit of flame. But I mean, otherwise, you're going to have to re-pop the whole inside of that condenser. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I was imagining when you were talking about that, it says the flame's coming.
Yeah.
So there will be a short.
When you're standing down there with it between your legs, like that good one the other day, you got to be a little more careful.
That's funny. As long as you know it's coming, it's okay, because you can prepare and make sure your leg hairs aren't singed off or something. But yeah,
my brother-in-law was talking about one of them old barred units, you know, that hung on the side of the trailers at the schools. A lot of the kindergarten and first graders wound up in trailers when they started getting more population and no money to build schools with. So they were hanging on the side of those things. Most of them was built in the late 60s, early 70s. And he said they were taking one out one time, and it popped out like that. You know, sometimes the old valves in the reciprocating compressors would burp or something and squirt something out at you. He said flame went all the way up the side of that thing. And of course, if you got the panel open, you're looking right in through the filter hole into the trailer. Said the teacher freaked out since he had every one of them kids jumping out the door. You know?
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Yeah, I've worked on a few of those wall hung units, and they're kind of funny. That I can only imagine all the kids seeing that.
I don't get to see them much anymore since I left the schools, but some of the electric substations here around have them on their control rooms. And I'll get them some parts for them or work on them sometimes. But
yeah, it's been a long time. All the ones I ever worked on seem to be high off the ground. They were never the ones like lower down, like you have like cooling off like server area or something like that. It was always like 15 foot up in the air. So I didn't like them.
I put a new one on one of those old trailers at the school, and what they had done, they had put two of those trailers in there and put them about 3 foot apart, and the units were opposing each other, blowing that hot air on each other.
Yeah.
But what made it really bad for us then, you couldn't get any equipment in there to take it off the side. So we got the bright idea to go to Tractor Supply and get some of those big old bumper jacks. And the thing I didn't know about those bumper jacks is when you raise them up to get your next click, it releases them. And it came down all at one time.
Oh, that must have been something.
So we got the old one off real quick, and then we had to figure out a way to put the new one up.
Boom, uninstalled. Oh my gosh.
What to do again.
Yeah. Well, you got to learn somehow. I've done some stuff like that, I'm sure.
I was thinking about the YouTube videos. I got one on there where I replaced a TXV with a piston and an old carrier. And it was an old unit, but it was a landlord, and it's actually the landlord I bought my building from. So he's got a lot of properties around, but one particular person was telling me, you did that customer a disservice, in the comments, you should have sold them a new unit, yada, yada, yada. This was in 2014 or 2015. I posted that video. That thing is still running today.
I bet.
And, I bet. I hope I'm still doing it long enough to replace it so I can do another video and say,
that
this
would
is
be
the one
nice.
I was supposed to replace 11 or 12 years ago, but it still made it.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
He paid, the same thing. I was there for 2 hours, and that was counting probably doing the video. And he paid me down. A couple $300, and he's been going for another 10 years. You can't beat that. The new equipment would probably be broke by now if I'd have put a new one in.
You probably would. You probably change that sucker out now. Have to face these refrigerant problems, but now you don't have to face that because did you use with that piston? Did you get the assembly for that piston?
No, I think the people that sold Nordyne over in Johnson City, they had a piston holder, and I think it held the little Nordyne pistons, the small
bullet looking things. Yeah.
But the bad part about it was one of the big brass pieces didn't have any copper coming out of it. So it was a bear to sweat you a piece of 3/8 copper into.
Oh.
So I would wind up I used a lot of that 56% with the
I remember
flux on it.
I remember this video. I remember you doing this because you were using some other kind of brazing material.
Yeah, because I couldn't. I mean, you can't really get that stuff to stick. You can't get it hot enough or something. I don't know. I couldn't anyway. Somebody else might be able to, but that stuff worked like a charm.
Yeah.
But Lennox had that. I think you showed it to me one time. They had a piston holder that had true 3/8 copper coming out both sides and had the was it chafflet type?
Yeah, I just call them Goodman style. But yes, yeah, I bought a few of those and used those.
Yeah,
after you've done that, I was like, yeah, that's a good idea.
And anytime people would ask me about one, I said, well, this is what I use, but here's what you need to use.
Yeah. Here's the official.
You get a lot of emails when you do some YouTube videos. Just people will email you and ask you, hey, I'm getting ready to do this. I watched your video. Where did you get that? Or where can I get one? And you can say, well, you can get this one, or you can get the new improved one that Zack showed me. It comes from Lennox.
I couldn't get the other stuff. I was like, I want to get something that looks real simple, and that thing looks simple. I mean, you just the 2 copper sections, easy to put on.
Yeah,
go about your life. I like that, But that's something we had to do a lot because the TXVs were failing in that same time period. There's a lot of TXVs, especially on the Goodman end, that were dying. And we ended up putting the pistons.
I think a lot of that was at Copeland, wasn't it? When they had that rust inhibitor.
It was around in there.
That's around 2014, 2015 units.
Mm-hmm. It could definitely have been that. Yeah, for sure.
Found out it was some third party was putting rust inhibitor on the parts, and it was clogging up the.
Oh yeah.
TXVs.
Nothing. Little AC Renew can't fix.
Yeah, that's when AC Renew stock shot way up, didn't it?
Yeah, and then they were all of a sudden everybody's like, "This is fine to put in there now." This is great. You can add it to a system, no problem. Before it's like, never do this. Never had anything, but now it's fine because they would have had a handful of problems.
Some people even had luck with the Supco 88. The diesel fuel smelling stuff.
Yeah. Oh man, Supco 88. Use it at your own risk, though. It tips over in the van. It's not good because that's what happened. It's the worst smell in the world.
I did fix a American Standard. Well, it was American Standard or Crane, depending on if you took the sticker off that was on the side of it up on that unit. But it was about 10, 12 years old, I guess, at the time. And it had the orifices that was made into the evaporator on the end where the capillary tubes came up. And they had a whole kit where you unsweated all that and you put a TXV with about 14 small copper lines you had to braze in. But I stuck some Supco 88 in that thing, and it was still running when the people moved recently. It wasn't their building, but the part of their lease was they had to maintain the equipment, which would mean if it had to be replaced, they'd have to replace it, and they didn't want to replace it.
Right.
So I said, hey, we can try this snake oil. Let's see what it does. It worked.
It seemed like that stuff didn't work. I mean, I don't know how often it worked, but it seemed like it did work.
You can put it in your lawnmowers too,
You can do anything. It's a multi-purpose fluid, that's for sure. Still got a bottle somewhere, probably around here. I like that stuff. It was pretty good. So I'll tell you, we're getting near the end of this here. So great segue, right?
It's great talking to you again.
Oh, it's a lot of fun, man. Let's just say what's the future going to hold? I mean, you gonna do the thing where you wait till the phone just stops ringing?
Well, no, I'm old enough that I can actually get my school retirement this year because it don't grow any after you turn 60 if you aren't working there. So I'll have a little bit of retirement income coming in there, and I could even do some Social Security things if I wanted to. So I've got to think about that because you don't know what tomorrow holds.
That's right.
I don't want to do this right up until the time I die. I'd like to have a little bit of fun in between.
Yeah, what do you imagine it'll be like? I mean, after you get done, no matter when you do it, what do you plan on doing, or what would you like to do?
I mean, you got to think about, of course, if you did start Social Security early, you can only make so much money a year before they start dinging you on it. I think after $21,000, $22,000, $23,000 a year, if you make a dollar more than that, they take 50 cents of it or something off your Social Security.
Sounds about right.
So you got to be thoughtful in how you're going to live. course, some income doesn't count towards that, like unearned income, like interest. If you got a CD somewhere, that money, you can make that money plus that. So you can do some things. I always thought too, as long as they don't touch that house deduction, where you can sell your house if you lived in it for 2 years, and you don't have any tax on that extra money that you made up to like $250,000 or $500,000, depending on whether you're married or not. A man can make a pretty good living building a house every 2 years if you did that.
Yeah. I can't imagine you're going to want to do that, though.
I don't know. It sounds intriguing.
It sounds intriguing, but I don't know. After your third or fourth house, you might not like that anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. Do you think you'll stay where you're at? Do you think you go somewhere else?
I don't know. I like this house. I like this area, but I would rather have a house I built from the ground up. I think, you get it the way you want it. This one, I've done a lot of work on this one, renovated a lot. Did a couple of videos on it, mostly putting a new heat pump in and some stuff. But I can't fit my van in the garage. It's got 7-foot garage doors, and my ladder rack won't fit in. Yeah. So I thought about adding a garage on it. Problem is, it's a brick house that was built in the 80s, and I couldn't find the brick.
All right, that's right, that's right. But you did find it, right? You did.
I did, but it's made over in your state, and apparently they're not going to make any more till the end of August. So that probably means the end of December in brick factory terms, because they always have a kiln breakdown somewhere along the way, and took us 3 days to fix it, so we're 6 months behind. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, but then you got to bring it across the Great Divide.
So, I don't know. I'm just going to play it by ear and have fun with it.
Yeah, sounds like the best idea. You never know what's going to happen. No matter what phase of life you're in, you really can't predict the future. Well, Chuck,
finished college and been a computer programmer.
No. College. If you say you should have finished college, I'll start feeling like I should have finished college. We don't need to let that wildfire spread. It's too late.
Couldn't have this much fun being a computer programmer, huh?
Nah, you want to work inside and it's into some office and, have like one of them things on your ear that you tap, say, yes, can I help you? You don't want that. You don't want that life.
Tech support.
Yeah. My friend used to call me a hammers and nails guy. Chuck, you are a hammers and nails guy. So
I love working with my hands, no doubt about it.
You can't escape it. And hitting computer keys is not the same.
Well, sure. And I'm more of a hammer and nail guy than I am a paintbrush guy, because I love building stuff, but I hate finishing stuff.
Yeah, well, hammers and nails guys are different than painters and drywall finishers. Those are a different group of people. Because drywall finishing,
artists,
Yeah, they're artists, and I cannot do it. It looks ugly. You want to see little lines going down your drywall? I'll be happy to finish it for you. But I appreciate you coming on again, man. Enjoy talking to you as always.
Well, thanks for having me. I'll go back and read the chat, guys. I'm sorry I didn't get to interact with any of you guys, but I'll see what was said, good or bad.
I don't think there's any bad thing. I mean, the first couple of weeks I restarted, there was a couple bad things, but it's mainly just YouTube trolling stuff.
Oh yeah,
which is really almost doesn't really do
you
anything anymore.
Got to embrace those people, because interaction is interaction.
Yeah,
good or bad, it helps.
Well, he gave up this week, I guess, because it really it's too late to have YouTube trolling work on me. It's too late on that. But Chuck,
it's like kids; they'd rather be what do they call it? Punished? No, they'd rather be praised than ignored. But they'd better be praised than punished. But they'd rather be punished than ignored. That's what it is.
That's exactly right. They want attention, negative or positive.
Either way, they want attention.
Yeah, just like my dog. They want attention, negative or positive. But thank you, Chuck.
Thank you, Zach.
I'm gonna blow up your square here.
All right.
And I'll talk to you in just a second if you want to hang around.
I'll do it. Thanks.
All right, man. All right, that was old Chuck right there. We're gonna wrap this thing up. Thank you, everybody. I see in the chat down there we got Ted. What's up, Ted? Jonathan Hollowell. We got Shannon, Roger, Blake, East Coast, a guy named Fred. Thank y'all for tuning in. I know it's the third week I've been back doing these live things. I'm going to continue doing them every week. They may rotate from Saturday to Friday, depending on which day is better, just in my personal life, which day, but we're going to try to keep it on one of those 2 days. If you have somebody you'd like me to talk to, whether it be just a trades guy or an industry person to ask questions, let me know. You can do that in the comments. You can do that in The chat's hard too because I don't always see the chat. But if you do it in the comments afterwards, I mean, let the video finish and put a video comment down, then I can try to get a hold of that person and bring them in here. So I'm glad. Yo, Gandalf. I like your name down there, Gandalf. You came right here on the tail end. You can rewind it back in a second and watch the rest of it. I'm about to duck out of here. I'll see you guys next week. I'm not quite sure who it'll be yet, but it'll be somebody. God bless all of you, and have a safe week. I'll see you on the next one. I was a young man looking for a life not very special, not a prospect in sight. So I went to trade school and I got a degree. I once was so lost, now I am a king, 'cause I'm a tech, I'm an HVAC man. You say office jobs await, but I don't belong there. I don't drive a Bugatti, but a Mazda's not bad. It's not all about money, but there's money to be had. And I met the perfect woman. She was looking for a man. She wanted a roughneck. I told her she would be glad, 'cause I'm a tech, I'm an HVAC man. I smell like a furnace, a stinky oil furnace. Life made me content and secure. It's so underrated. Would you not concur? 'Cause I'm a tech, I'm an HVAC man. You say an office job awaits, but I don't belong there. I don't belong.